I'm going to be doing 1 week of horror readathon and I'm pretty excited about it. Hi everyone, I'm Archana Balasubramaniam and welcome to my YouTube channel. So this horror readathon is the challenge picked by you all, and a couple of days back I had given you 4 options to pick a challenge for me. So one of that was the horror readathon, which I got a majority of votes on. So with this, let's start off with the video. So for the horror readathon challenge, I have about 1 week and I have picked about 3 books for this. So in 1 week, if I have to read 3 books, I really have to make time for it, probably wake up a little early, read every time I get a chance, and get to reading all these 3 books. So that's how I'm planning to do it. So the 3 books that I have picked up are the first one, The King of Horror. It's Misery by Stephen King. So Stephen King obviously is known for his horror books, and he's a very celebrated author in that genre. So Misery by Stephen King was highly recommended by someone very close to me. So she reads a lot of horror books, she's an avid reader of horror and of Stephen King in particular. So she actually suggested that I start off with Misery. So previously I have read Stephen King's memoir. It's called On Writing, and that was good. As a memoir, it was good. I read it many years back actually, but actually reading a Stephen King fiction, this is the first time I'm doing that. So yes, that is the first thing I'm going to pick. So the next read that I'm going to pick is Hide by Kiersten. This is a carnival themed horror, and since I'm a Goosebumps fan of One Day in Horrorland and Return to Horrorland as a kid, I decided to go for it.
So the third book that I picked up was very unexpected. It's called Diavola, and this is a 2024 release, and this is based on supernatural horror.
And the last one is going to be The Exorcist by William Blatty. So with this, let's start off with our first book, that's Misery by Stephen King. So I have the Kindle version of it, and so far I just read it on the internet, the synopsis, so to understand what Misery was about before I jumped into that book. So there were only about 2-3 lines on Goodreads, and it says that Paul Sheldon is a very celebrated writer and he meets with an accident. So now after meeting with an accident, he is rescued by someone called Annie Wilkes, and Annie is not just his rescuer, but she's also her captor. So we have to find out more about that. So this is all that I know about this book, so let's dive right into it. So it looks like there are about 447 pages in this book, and let's start off. Okay, so the synopsis itself says here in the book, Paul Sheldon, he's a best-selling novelist who has finally met his biggest fan. Her name is Annie Wilkes, and she is more than just a rabid reader. She is Paul's nurse, tending his shattered body after an automobile accident. But she is also his captor, keeping him prisoner in her isolated home. Now, Annie wants Paul to write his greatest work just for her. She has a lot of ways to spur him on. One is a needle, another is an axe. And if they don't work, she can get really nasty. So this is the synopsis given in the book. Okay, so it looks like Paul Sheldon is in a daze. He's been falling asleep and he's kind of waking back on, and even when he wakes up, he feels like he's in a daze. So everything seems hazy around him, and he's trying to figure out what's going on. So this is post the accident, I guess. So let's find out more. Okay, so now he meets Annie Wilkes, and she is sitting by his bedside with a book written by Paul Sheldon. So immediately he gets to know that she's his #1 fan. Okay, so the very description of Annie seems it's very much in detail. Okay, so this particular line about Annie, I'm going to read it out to you. He felt more and more convinced that her eyes, which appeared to move, were actually just painted on, and they moved no more than the eyes of portraits, which appear to follow you to wherever you move in the room where they hang. I don't know. This itself seems very creepy, right? I am imagining her right now, and it just feels and he also describes her she looks like an idol. She's very slow moving, she's very big, and not in an appealing kind of way. She does not have any feminine curves as such, and yeah, that's how she looks like. She has kind of hooked him onto painkillers, and he is also kind of addicted to it, because every 6 hours she comes to give him painkillers. So the painkiller that she gives him is Novril. So it's a very heavy codeine based painkiller. So right now he's bedridden completely and he's dependent on Annie to take care of him, and all he gets are painkillers. So not just that, you can find out about how she's been taking care of him is because not just the painkillers, the use of his bedpan is very infrequent. He's bedridden, right? So he requires a bedpan and it is very infrequent, and the reason for that is because this Novril also causes constipation, and it is not because he's currently only on a diet subsisting of liquids, but it is because of the Novril actually. I mean, imagine how badly she's taking care of him and he's kind of dependent on her. Another thing about Annie is that she's very vague with answering him. He's trying to ask her questions, but she's very vague. She's not really giving him details about where he is right now, and his wallet is also not with him. So she just says she's put it away. And the woman itself is kind of really scary. Okay, I can only imagine what Paul is actually going through right now.
Okay, so I know that I look like a mess right now because who gets dressed and then goes about cooking? But since it's going to be short throughout the week, so in between you'll see me doing other activities too, as in when I'm reading. Because I feel that as I'm eating, instead of getting distracted with the TV or something, I do need some sort of a distraction while eating. Though I love to eat, I just prefer having something in the background. So I just thought I'd continue reading. This is something I do, and it also saves a lot of time. So let's start off. So before eating, I'd finished up to page number 50, and now I'm on page number 51, and this is chapter 10. Okay, I actually don't know how to tell this. I haven't finished my food yet, but I'm probably just going to wash my hands and eat this later. I don't think I can eat it right now because something really gross happened. I'll be back. Paul happened to spill a little soup, okay? It was not his fault actually, it was majorly Annie's fault, but then he happened to spill some soup, okay? And now Annie went there, got the bucket, mop and all of that and started washing off the soup, okay? Because she felt that she had to do that first. And Paul is in a lot of pain. So the thing is, instead of giving him his pain medication, she's right now busy scrubbing it, okay? And she blames the mess on Paul. So not only is she doing that, the thing is, after all of that, finally, Paul thinks that, she's probably going to punish him. She's probably going to go off for hours and not come back, because that is what she does. She can just go off for hours and just not come back, okay? So after scrubbing and all of that, when she comes back, right, I thought, okay, she's probably in a good mood because she hands out 2-3 pills. Instead of the usual 2 pills, she hands out 3 pills, okay? And she gives the pills, okay? And after giving the pills, she is actually taking that mop, the water with which she mopped, right? That mop water. She is holding the bucket over him and she is just about to pour it into his mouth, okay? She's telling him, I know you can probably just swallow the tablets without it, but you're going to swallow it with this, or else I know how to bring it back out. And she just pours the mop bucket water into that and he drinks it. That is so gross. He just forces himself to drink it and then he's telling himself not to throw up. He's reminding himself of his childhood, how, when his mom brushed and then there was some soapy water. That's how it tasted. He's trying to tell himself that, trying to console himself of that, but this is exactly what happened and it is so gross.
Okay, so now I've finished about 240 pages and as of now, Annie has left Paul and gone off somewhere. There is no, it doesn't seem like she's going to come back anytime soon, or Paul, she's just very unpredictable, okay? And Paul, of course, he needs his pain killers, and he also doesn't have anything to eat. So he sneaks out, okay, into the other parts of the house. And as he sneaks out into the other parts of the house, he is discovering bits and pieces of Annie. So Annie is very keen on maintaining appearances, okay? She always tells about how, the Roydmans, who are her neighbors, so her house is a little isolated and the Roydmans stay a little away from her house, okay? But of course they can't hear or something of whatever happens here, I guess. So that is what is there. So she wants to keep up with appearance, as in she wants to look normal, okay? So that is why she has a telephone at home, but then you cannot place calls or anything. There is no connection. And not just that, now Paul discovers a scrapbook of Annie's, okay? It says memory lane, and I'm just very curious to know what memory lane holds. and I'm just like, seeing it now, and you won't believe the kind of things that are there in a scrapbook. Okay, and Paul is feeling pretty uneasy, and Annie is probably more dangerous than you think. Okay, so now Annie is pretty cross with Paul for something he did, and she does not seem to be happy. Okay, I don't even know what to say, but right now, the exact sentence here reads like this. When she straightened up, she was holding the axe from the shed in one hand and a propane torch in the other. The blade of the axe gleamed. Written on the side of the propane torch was the word Burns-O-Matic. She also has a betadine solution with it. So now these are the things with her. He never forgot these things, these words, these names. I'm reading this part out to you. Annie, no, he screamed. Annie, I'll stay right here. I won't even get out of bed. Please, oh God, please don't cut me. Paul is literally pleading for his life. Like, you never know what she's going to do right now. It'll be alright, she said. How is that even an acceptable response, right? I mean, he's screaming there and she's telling it'll be alright. What is she even going to do with that axe? He could smell it, a doctor's office smell. That smell meant you were going to get shot. Just a little pain, Paul. It won't be bad. Oh my God, oh my God. Shit, you should actually see the way Paul is pleading with her. I mean, he is dependent on her for everything there. There is no means of escape for him right now. And oh my God, you should just see the way he's pleading here. Annie, Annie, oh Annie, please. No, Annie, please don't, Annie. I swear to you, I'll be good. I swear to God, I'll be good. Please give me a chance to be good. Oh, Annie, please let me be good. And he's pleading like this. Okay, these are the exact words. And then she's replying to that saying, just a little pain. Then this nasty business will be behind us for good, Paul. Look at her response. Shit. Okay, she did something very bad, okay? This is probably the worst of the things that she has done so far. I mean, so far I knew that, every little thing screamed that she's a psychopath. But this particular thing she did right now with that torch and that betadine solution and all of that, this is the worst of all. The description of this entire scene, it is so horrific that I can literally picture that. So until the part where he was pleading and all of that, I was kind of still okay. I was scared, okay? I was like, I was anxious about what she's going to do to him. But even then, I was hoping that, she's probably not that bad. But I mean, yeah, of course, like, against my better judgment, I still hope that, she's not bad. But no, she's really, she's the worst. All the pain that she's inflicting on him, she's doing it with such practiced ease, and you really have to read this. Every little thing has been given in so much detail. I can imagine what exactly Paul is going through. Okay, so we are in the final parts of reading Misery, and I'm pretty excited about that because so far it has been extremely engrossing, and I just, I actually felt that, claustrophobia. I felt that anxiety that Paul was feeling, and how do you even deal with a woman like Annie? I actually felt like I was in Paul's place and I was dealing with a psychopath like Annie. And I think the book has been very descriptive. So let's read the final parts because I'm pretty excited about this. So Paul has been working really hard on writing the final book of the Misery novel. So the thing is, because Annie wants a copy of Misery for herself, like Paul has been working extremely hard on that, and he has been working on it from the start. And the thing is, like, though Misery was actually killed off in the final book, now Paul is trying to, like, bring her back to life, because that is exactly what Annie wants, and he's been really working hard. So you can see him, like, despite the missing keys on the typewriter, he's been, like, typing away, and he's, like, actually spending a lot of time writing it for her. So I think, like, he's a captive, but he's been doing it with so much of dedication. I just hope that this novel sees the light of the day, and not just with Annie, but with the whole population. So let's find out what happens. So I just finished the final part of Misery, and I think it's mind-blowing. I think it's an amazing book overall, and I would rate it a 4.5 out of 5. I just felt like it was slightly lengthy, because, like, staying in the same place for too long, I just couldn't, like, deal with so much of anxiety by staying in the same place for too long. But I think it was extremely well written. Like, obviously I see why Stephen King is actually the king of horror. So I highly recommend that you read this as well. There is so much that happens in the book. You should definitely read it. Like, this is one of the must reads, okay? So this is not a supernatural horror. This is a gross out horror. So there are a lot of scenes here where you just clasp your hand to your mouth, and you'll just kind of you'll gasp, because that is what happens in the book. And not just that, you have that anxiety, that anticipation through building throughout the book, because you're scared of what happens next. What if you're caught? I mean, like, of course, like, what if Paul is caught? So that is what I felt throughout the novel, and it was amazing. Definitely a must read.
We are now moving to the second book in our horror marathon.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to the second book of our horror marathon. Okay, so this book is a carnival themed horror, like I told you. It is Hide by Kiersten White. I don't know much about the book yet, but I'm going to start off with reading, so I'm pretty excited to read this. Okay, so today is the second day of reading Hide by Kiersten White, and so far I have finished about 15% of it. So 15% of the book, all I got to know about this was that, no spoilers of course, I know that there are 14 participants. So what this book is about is that people are going into a reality TV sort of a competition, okay? It's not a reality TV show yet, but then in the future, in the near future, it may be a reality TV show. So the thing is, like, as of now, they have to sign these non-disclosure agreements, and they have to, like, 14 people are gathered there, and each of those 14 people have, like, a past, okay? So some of them have, like, different reasons to come there. Probably in someone's house, their parents don't really believe in them, or in another person, he's a salesman who's really fed up with his job and wants to get a little ahead in his life. And the main character that we see here is Mackenzie. They call her Mac. And she has escaped some really traumatic past. We don't know what that is yet, but we just know that her dad is dangerous, and he says that I think he's tried to attack her or something, and she's lived in foster homes. So we just know that so far, and all of them are pretty competitive with each other, okay? As of now, they're prepping for the competition. They still don't know what they're supposed to be doing. I mean, like, all they're told is that they have to be hiding from dawn to dusk, okay? If they are spotted, if they are sought, they will be thrown out of the game. And there will also be food and protein bars and all given with them, like, to sustain themselves during the time that they are hiding. And so far it is like that. So now they are actually, like, Mac is actually entering. So this is the part that I'm reading currently. So let's see how this goes. Okay, so now I've finished about 21% of the book. The thing is, each of these people, they've gone out to hide, and they notice that this amusement park is actually rusty. The carousel and all the theme parks, sort of like these games and all of that, they are pretty rusty and they look pretty abandoned. There are creepers around everywhere, and it has that eerie vibe. So they are scared, of course, but then, like, they are into hiding, because at the end of the day they are going to win a cash prize, and that will really help them. So the thing is about this amusement park, it has been shut down very long ago, and it was shut down because, like, someone who wanted to buy the amusement park came with his family. A gentleman came with his family, and then like with his 2 kids. Okay, so one of the kids actually disappeared. So it was a 5-year-old kid and people could never find it. But there is a house in the distance in this very amusement park where you can see a little shoe hanging there, a very old weathered out shoe. So because it's an old thing, like it perfectly fits a 5-year-old girl, and nobody really gets so close to that house. Okay, nobody even knows, like this is the kind of park where people can actually get lost in it. So as of now it's going fine. It's not scary or anything, but I can picture the atmosphere, but it is not exactly scary at the moment. Okay, so now I've finished about 23% of the book, and we are kind of stepping onto the scarier side of the book. And one thing is like, I'd like to ensure myself against all this fear. So I just brought my cat here with me. It's a helpful tip for you. So whenever you're scared or you want to read a horror book or anything, always keep your pet near you in case you have a pet. If not, probably like, go sit near your siblings or family or friends or anyone for that matter. Okay, so let me catch you up on all the things that I read about Hyde. No spoilers, of course. But as I told you, like there are about 14 people and all of that. So through the course of 7 days, each day 2 people will be eliminated. So the thing is, after people are eliminated, right, nobody even gets to know. So at the end of the day, people are getting eliminated, but none of the eliminated contestants even come by to say a goodbye or anything. They just disappear. So after a while they find it as a red flag, and they do see like drops of blood here and there. So that adds to their fear. And not just that, so initially they were giving a little bit of food and all of that, but right now they are just left there with no food or anything, as in like their pantry has been stacked with snack bars and all of that, snack bars and energy boosters and stuff like that. But other than that, they nobody's actually coming there to give them food. So it rings alarm bells in all of them, the surviving members there, and they are trying to understand what exactly is happening here. Okay, so we finished Hyde, and I think it's an okayish kind of a book. I mean, I expected a lot more in a carnival themed horror. Some of the things like the plot was overall good and all of that, but I feel that basically the narration, like here and there I did feel a little bit of fear. I felt parts of it getting interesting, but I feel that the book on the whole could have been a little more fear inducing. So it's like it is kind of a good book, but I wouldn't really like want to read it again, or it's not a book that I would recommend to anybody as such, because it is like an average book at best. So I rate it about 3 stars out of 5. And there it is, our next book, Diavola by Jennifer Thorne. So the next book that we are going to do is Diavola by Jennifer Thorne. So this book I had started when I was sick about 2 days ago, and I finished about 35% of the book. So this is a horror story on a based on a supernatural creature. And so the story is themed around a vacation home actually. So a family like they come together and then they decide to visit a vacation home in Italy. So this particular vacation is being sponsored by the mom and dad. Okay, I don't know why my cat wants to disappear exactly when I want him. Okay, so anyway, so that is the case. Okay, so Anna is the protagonist of the story, and Anna is currently unmarried. She just broke up with her boyfriend, and she is actually heading to the vacation home. This is in Italy. Okay, and at the vacation home her parents are already there, and Anna has a twin brother called Benny. So Benny has also come there along with his boyfriend Christopher. And Anna has a sister called Nicole. Nicole has come there with her husband and 2 children. So now that everyone has reached the vacation home, like at the very first instance when Anna enters the house, she feels that there is something really wrong with the house, as in like she hears some sounds. Okay, and then she realizes like within a couple of minutes that there was actually nobody in the house, but then she just heard weird sounds. Okay, and she tries to brush it off and all of that, but Anna is the first person to sense that the house is haunted, and her parents are there, and then her sister is there. So overall, like, so far from the story, what I understood was that their family dynamics are completely wrong, okay, and I don't think they can actually stand each other, and it feels like these people are just enemies woven into a family because they are related by blood. So that is what I felt about them. And not just that, so each person is very bitchy to the other, okay. I'm not saying the protagonist, like Anna, is a good person and the rest of them are bad. Anna herself is bad, okay. You will hate even the protagonist of the story, but I feel that comparatively she may be a little better than the others. But of course, like, I've just finished 35% of the book, so let's see what happens. So another thing that I noticed about this book is that each person is trying to show their superiority over the other. So the start of the book itself shows that there is a ghost looming around, and like, Anna is trying to be cautious. Not just Anna, like a couple of other people in the family also are aware, but then, like, I don't know why they're just not communicating properly yet. And I don't think, like, they are voicing out their opinion because they think that they'll be judged or the other person won't believe them. But somehow the presence of a ghost is definitely felt, and even for the people who actually don't believe it, like, the presence is actually kind of affecting them. So this is what has happened so far, and we are going to continue reading that.
It's actually getting pretty scary, and I'm alone in my house right now. So I have my bedsheet over me because it feels really cold as I'm reading as I'm progressing in the story. And I don't know, I feel that Anna could have actually stopped this whole thing from happening, but there's so much of, like, people can actually sense that the house is haunted, but then Anna can actually stop that, and somehow she doesn't seem to be actually taking that step to stop that. So the thing is, I'm not really understanding why Anna is not telling her family members about it. Like, even the kids have realized, but unless and until they confide in the family members, even though they are real jerks, I feel that somehow they could kind of, like, come together and combat this whole thing. So I had to get my cat with me because obviously the book got really scary, and I'm trying to sleep now actually. So I hope I'm able to sleep, and yeah, with my cat beside me I should be able to do so. So I woke up early in the morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, and of course you can see a pile of clothes there on the bed. Ignore that. But you can see both my cats staring at the doorway, and I'm alone at home today. And that's like the scariest part. I'm already reading a horror book.
So we are now in the final 20% of the book. So at 60% of the book, it felt like, okay, the book has almost come to an end, but then I still didn't understand why the 40% was left. But then I understood after reading a little more that, why that extra 40% was needed. And otherwise, I don't think that would have, added that masala to that story. So right now we're reading this. Somehow, they're trying to flee for their lives and all of that. Someone in the house also ends up dead, and this is what is happening, okay. I don't want to give out too much of the information because I don't want to give spoilers, but this is what is happening. But now I'm in the last 20%, and the ghost is, like, all the more attached to Anna. I don't want to tell you why, but yes, let's find out why. Let's find out how she deals with it. And mind you, the ghost is also very tech friendly. Okay, so I just finished this book, and I think it's amazing, okay. I won't say it's like way too amazing that I would rate it a 5 stars, but it is definitely amazing, and I would rate it a 4 stars. So the only few things that I didn't like about the ghost is that the ghost is tech friendly, like I said. That is kind of like, I don't think I'm able to digest that yet. But I think, like, it also makes sense because, like, if any of us today in this day and age, like, if we become ghosts someday, of course we will be tech friendly, right? So yeah, that is one thing. And yeah, I really like this book. Like, there is a lot of toxic dynamics and all of that. You'll end up hating almost every character in this book, but I still feel like the ending was awesome. I really loved the ending. I don't think like there could have been a better way to end this book. So I absolutely loved it, and yeah, that is what I like to say about this book. So it's a 4 out of 5 stars, and I would definitely recommend in case you're into horror. Supernatural horror, that is. So because I'm reading supernatural horror, I have these 2 little ghosty candles. I don't feel like lighting them, though they're vanilla scented. They smell so good. And I know I look like a witch right now with candles lit, but I also have this little scully here. The price tag is still there. I think it's from almost 2 years ago when I first started my YouTube channel and I wanted to deck up my house for Halloween. So this October 31st, I'll be completing 2 years on YouTube, and I think it's been, one hell of a ride. Okay, so we're finally moving to the last book in our series, and I'm reading The Exorcist. I was really putting this off, obviously, because I was pretty scared to read it, and I know that the movie is something that's really celebrated by people who like horror. And since I generally don't like horror, and it's not like I don't like horror, I really love horror, but I'm really scared of whatever happens in it. So I thought I'll put it off to the end because let me first prepare myself, and then after that move on to something that's like really scary. Since it's celebrated widely, I know that it is going to be pretty scary. So I'm all set. I have my Kindle, I have my cats on the sofa right now. They will comfort me if anything like goes wrong. I mean, I'm not saying anything will go wrong, but in case I get scared, they will comfort me. So I have Exorcist on my Kindle, and let's start off with reading it now. I have no idea what it is about, okay? So the only thing about Exorcist that I know is that, very long back, I remember I saw one scene when I walked into the living room and I saw that, someone was possessed. So that's the only scene I've seen, and I don't know anything else about that. So no synopsis, nothing. I'm just gonna start off with it. Okay, one thing is you really cannot pin down a cat because no matter what you try to do, they just kind of like go away. I know my cat is right here at the near the carpet, and this one is there, but still it gets a little scary. Okay, I'm on page 11 right now, and so far I know that a man in khakis is, he leaves the tea room, and then he goes near the ruins of a particular temple, and when he sees the demon Pazuzu, he realizes that it is coming. I don't know what is what he understood from that, but he sees another person holding an amulet and something to shield from the demons, and this is all I know so far, but let's find out. Okay, so right now there are a couple of people meeting up in a living room, and they're talking about a person who's a medium. So now they're also talking about this cottage behind a church where they're asking what happens in that cottage. So one of the people who is in the living room is the dean. So the dean is telling that is where people have heard that this black mass happens. So when asked what a black mass is, it's like the opposite of Catholic mass. So here in this case, there is devil worship and witchcraft. So they still don't know what happens, but then he's telling that statistically about 50,000 black masses are said to be held every year in the city of Paris. Okay, so he just says that, and the people in the living room are Mary Jo, Chris, and this person, this dean. Okay, I just took a break to quickly get some chips and a dip and a blanket because my cats seem to have ditched me and they have gone off to the other room. So yeah, let's move on and let's start reading. The reason I got a blanket is because right now they're still in the living room, but now they're going to talk about some of these witchcraft practices that have been going on. So I decided that I needed this blanket. Okay, so now actually one of the people in the house, Chris, is actually going down, and she sees that her daughter is actually playing with a Ouija board. So the daughter's name is Regan. So actually Chris actually brings Regan from the basement, where she was playing with that Ouija board, and now she's introducing them to the people. So when she introduces them to Mrs. Perrin, so Mrs. Perrin is a seeress, okay, and she actually like tries to like talk to the daughter, and the daughter is like strangely very well behaved, and but she's not like taking her hand. So actually like so the seeress is telling like she knows I'm a fake, but then like actually she's a little curious, and she goes and she grips Regan's hand, that is the daughter's hand, and she suddenly pulls off and glares at her. So actually it seems Regan is probably kind of sick, so that's what Chris is explaining. But then like the seeress, that is Mrs. Perrin, she kind of keeps observing the kid. Okay, now they've put the daughter to bed. And the thing is, the seeress, that is Mary Jo Perez, she's a little disturbed after the encounter with the daughter. Okay, so the daughter is a little sick. She heads up upstairs, and now like Mrs. Perez seems to be a little disturbed, not like very visibly, but she seems to be sitting in a corner, and she's a little pensive. Okay, the creepy part has already started. So not just with the discussion of this black mass thing, so now they're actually like the daughter who went to her bedroom to sleep, she's now back, and she starts urinating, and she tells the astronaut in the room, so there is also an astronaut in the room, tells him that like when she's when the astronaut is about to go to the chapel, the daughter tells like you're going to die up there. So Chris, like the mother of Regan, like the daughter who just said that, she's a little shocked, and she's like getting the daughter out of the scene right now. Okay, so this part is getting scary. Like all the people are leaving right now, so it is just Chris, and her daughter Regan is like in the bedroom. She's put Regan to sleep, and here actually like as everyone is leaving, right, the last people to leave is Mrs. Perrin and her son. So that is Mary Jo Perrin. Okay, so actually that time Chris asks Mrs. Perrin, so Mrs. Perrin is a seeress, right? So she asks her like her daughter Regan is like very obsessed with using the Ouija board, like is there something wrong with that? So she was expecting them to like just dismiss it, saying that it's nothing, but instead like like this person actually looks a little thoughtful now. Not just that, around Regan there is this drop in temperature. So yeah, when she asked like if it's okay that her daughter has been obsessed with the Ouija board, like she's very thoughtful. I mean she's a little thoughtful, that is Mrs. Perez, and she steps out of the house, and her voice is like really low, and it drops down, and she says, I don't know, but if I were you I would take it from her. And then they all leave. Let's see what happens now. I think I need my cats. Okay, since my cats didn't come with me, I just thought that I'll turn on the light for a little brightness. I know it's just afternoon, it's just 2:30 in the afternoon, but yeah, I just thought I'll turn on the light and get back to reading. Let's see what happens now. Food is really comforting, okay, so that's why I've been eating as I'm reading. Like especially when I'm scared, I feel like food is like a go-to thing when I'm alone in the house, either my cats or food. Like I need people around, but right now there's nobody at home. So one thing I've noticed about these horror stories is that like there are a lot of skeptics around in like the place where danger is actually looming. So when this Mrs. Perez actually tells Chris that Ouija boards are actually dangerous, so Chris is in fact telling like, do you actually believe in that sort of a thing? They're kind of having that conversation. Every single horror story that I read, it's like people just refuse to walk out of that place or try to believe them. I know in this case like it seems like the daughter is on the verge of getting possessed, or she's in the process of being possessed, but like I feel like as a mom, like she's supposed to be able to spot it there. Okay, so right now, like to convince Chris, Mrs. Perez is actually mentioning an incident which happened in 1921. Okay, it was about a family of 11, and they went on a burning spree, and then they ended up in an asylum. But this part is especially creepy if you know of these what are those murders called? I'll just find out and tell you, but I remember that 11 was the number, and this person used to write journals and all of that. Like he had an account of all of that from the grandfather, and all the 11 people killed themselves. So I don't know what is with this number 11, but they're mentioning it here. Obviously Exorcist was written very long back, and the one that I'm talking about is a true story. I don't know, but it's creeping me out all the more. Okay, now that Chris is alone, like not alone as in she's with Regan and Willie, I felt that it would be wiser to get my cats here, but then my cats don't seem to want to sit on the sofa next to me, but they are around here in the living room, so I'm okay with that. Let's continue reading. Okay, the ghost is here, or the demon is here, whatever it is. But then like Chris goes to fall asleep and all of a sudden she hears a scream. It's her daughter. It's her daughter telling that please come and help, like please make it stop. So she goes and sees that the mattress is actually quivering violently. So right now Chris is reading about possession, okay, and they say that the victim is actually going to be able to like mimic the voice and mannerisms and like the language completely. Even if the language is very very foreign to them, they can actually speak in that language of the spirit that has possessed them. So not just that, using telekinesis they can actually move the objects. So now it's all making sense to Chris because that is exactly what Regan is doing. So the way that this family member was murdered was like twisting the neck unnaturally, and that is called a ritual murder. So usually it is done only when there are demons, like if they're summoning demons or something like that, that's when this ritual murder happens. So Chris is now shocked and we have to find out what happens. So the thing is, actually Chris walks into the daughter's bedroom and there is actually something very demonic happening there, okay, and like Chris also kind of gets involved, as in like the daughter kind of like forces something on her, okay, and it is absolutely terrifying. Oh my god. Okay, so now we're moving to the next part, okay, and Chris has now realized how dangerous her daughter can actually be. So I'm reading the final parts of The Exorcist. It's almost done, like they've got the necessary approvals for exorcism, and so there's another person called Merrin. So Merrin is someone who is very experienced with this exorcism. So along with that, Father Karras is also going to be there. So now all the exorcism is being planned. So I am all set to read it. Okay, so now I'm all set to read the rest of the book. Okay, we're done with Exorcist, and I can honestly say that of all the horror books that I've read so far, this is the best. And it's extremely scary. Right when you need your cat, that's when your cat moves away and goes on to sit near the chair. So yeah, I highly recommend that you read Exorcist. The exorcism happens. There are a lot of deaths involved in this book, and there are so many things that happen, telekinesis and basically all these ghostly stuff, it's all there. So if you're prepared to get scared, so I think you should definitely read it, but I would highly recommend this book and I would rate it a 5 stars. So please go for it. So with this, we're done with the horror readathon series, and I think I've read for about 1.5 weeks now, and it's been a really amazing experience. So now with Halloween also coming, so I'm going to balance between Halloween and also Navratri and Dasara celebrations. So I'll be reading like a lot of spookathons, but I'll also be reading a lot of mythology. So you'll be seeing a lot of those on my channel. So please stay tuned for more videos. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for voting for me, so that I can do this horror readathon. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But of course, like you see, like even in the video, like you just saw, like there are after effects to that. But I'm sure I can deal with it. So yes, with that we're done. Thank you so much. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Bye.